Alright, so let's talk briefly about Cathie Wood. So if you don't know who Cathie Wood is, she runs an investment firm called ARK Invest. And this firm has had various ETFs that basically have had absolutely insane returns back in 2019 and 2020. Due to which there were several articles that basically called her the hottest investor. And also articles such as this where she's the best investor that you've never heard of. However, in the last year, this has been the performance of the ARK Innovation Fund, which also happens to be ARK Invest's flagship fund. Now, this is particularly treacherous in an environment where they're basically charging a 0.75% expense ratio, and the S&P 500 yielded over a 27% rate of return in 2021. Well, the core question becomes is why exactly is this happening? Well, here are some stats that are particularly relevant. This fund basically has about 35 holdings. 22 out of 30 of those holdings do not have any earnings. Additionally, for 8 out of those 30 holdings, the average price to earnings ratio is about 90. Generally speaking, when you have an average price to earnings ratio north of about 20-25 or so, you're talking about some pretty highly overvalued stocks. And in an environment with rising interest rates, these stocks have been getting absolutely bludgeoned. And even when it comes to the S&P 500 returns back in 2021, it was largely due to some of those major or very large companies that basically carried the S&P 500. Now, the key thing to note with Cathie is that she is basically investing for the long term. She has come out and said multiple times that she's basically looking for carry investments for at least a 5-year time horizon. Perhaps a lot of the holdings that she has are able to turn around and actually reflect some level of earnings during that time period. However, it is important to note that the clock is ticking at this point in time. We're about 3 years into a lot of the investments that she's basically made. So if you have the patience to own a lot of the stocks that are owned in the ARK Innovation Fund, perhaps it's worth holding on to them. But I would probably hold them in my own personal portfolio as opposed to investing in one of her ETFs due to the 0.75% expense ratio that she charges. Now, there are benefits, of course, with just investing with her ETF due to the fact that you do not necessarily need to manage your money. But with that said, she, as in ARK Invest, plus all the hedge fund managers for that matter, should expect some level of criticism when they're unable to beat the market. If you are familiar with ARK Invest as well as its ETFs, include them in the comments, and of course, this is not financial advice.